Great. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I know a lot of you are watching after the recording, but it's great to have Angie, who's from Melbourne, and Nanette, who's in the States, joining us. So a bit of both worlds. So it's really good. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about me before I jump into my top 10 tips, which I realised on my webinar a couple of hours ago. It's probably about 15 tips, more than 10, which is pretty typical for me, adding extra stuff in as I think about it. So I've been running retreats in some form for just over 20 years. So they started off very local here in Victoria, and we're all based around leadership. And I called them summits because, 20 years ago, retreats were very yoga and meditation and kind of seen as the hippie type thing that people did, and people didn't really understand them. So about probably 5 years ago, I started running them overseas. So Bali, I took small groups to Europe, and we did things that were a little bit different, that were off the tourist trail. And I really saw women have a lot of aha moments, those moments where they see something, or there's a conversation or a workshop where their lives are changed forever, and it will never be the same for them. And I realised I wanted to do this on a much bigger scale. So I left the only job I knew as a social worker and headed into the world of retreats. So running them and also training people to run their own retreats, because I saw a lot of people losing money, not making a profit, doing all this really hard work to build a retreat and then not knowing how to market it. So no one would book, or they might get one or two bookings and then have to go through the whole thing of, should we do it? Should I just take away a few people? So I really wanted a really solid base for people to learn from. There's only one or two other people in the world that run retreat training. So it's not a known thing. People kind of think, I'll run a retreat and I've organised things before, so it'll be fine. But there's lots of things that people don't think about, like business insurance and all your public liability and paperwork, and, what to do if you're on a retreat and one of the women has a huge blow up about something. So all those little nitty gritty stuff that people wouldn't normally think about it. So I wanted to put together some webinars that talked about my top 10 tips, which is really a starting point for your planning. So I'm going to share my screen. Technology is great that it allows you to do this. There we go. And most of the time it works really well. Okay. So, as I said, this is who I am. I've been running retreats in some form for over 20 years. About it'll be 6.5 years ago now, when I saw Eat, Pray, Love, and I realised that I needed something like that. So I took off my two boys, who were 12 and about 7 at the time, to Southeast Asia for 3 months and had my own little mini Elizabeth Gilbert pilgrimage, and came back knowing that I needed to change my life professionally and personally. So that's how Sour Luas Adventures was born. And now I facilitate retreats internationally in Asia, the USA, Mexico, and Europe. And my training is in all those places as well, which is very exciting. So I just want to start to talk a little bit about what retreats are. Most of us will know, but a retreat can change your life. It is an experience different to a group event or a workshop. They come in all shapes and forms now. Everything from those traditional yoga meditation retreats right through to craft retreats. I was talking to a woman that organised a retreat over with the Amish women in America, and it was all about quilting and learning their craft. So they really vary from everything in any direction. Retreats are different in the sense that people stay at the one location together with everybody rather than coming in the morning and going home at night. And I think that kind of sleepover idea of staying together builds on the impact that it can have emotionally. And particularly women go on retreats to change something within. They're often to fill a void or learn something. So women will see a retreat that talks about, you know, do you want to feel worthwhile again? Or do you feel like you've given your whole life to other people? And they'll realise that by going on it, whatever they're feeling inside might get a little bit fixed. So my first tip is to be really clear on your why. Why is it you want to run a retreat? You know, if it's just about adding that dollar and more money to your business, then, you know, it may work, but you won't get and the people won't get that come the same value out of it, because it's all about the money rather than the teaching. Think about what you want to give to others. What is it you want to teach them? What do you want them to learn? And what do you want them to get out of coming away with you? And what do you want to add to your business as a whole? Yes, the money can be really good, but there's more to it. There's, you know, building your reputation as a leader in your field. It's about positioning yourself as a person that people can trust and go to, and that really wants to support your clients. It's also really important to know your story. Often in retreats, women, and it doesn't matter what sort of retreat it is, women will come and they'll start talking about these deep, dark secrets that they've got that maybe they've never spoken about before. And they can be things, you know, things like childhood trauma, sexual abuse, domestic violence, eating disorders, you name it, and, you know, it could come out on one of your retreats. So it's really important to know your own story, to know what pushes your buttons. If someone starts talking about, say, sexual abuse, will it trigger something in you? And really think about where you are on your journey of healing and how you might deal with it if someone does talk about something that you know potentially can activate stuff within you. While you're on the retreat, you'll be the expert, you're the go-to person, and you don't want to feel like your insides are crushing and you can't cope when you've got all these people with you that are relying on you to be together and to be really in tune with what they need. Okay, the where and the when. These are super important too. I've got a story. We went on a family holiday to Vietnam. I'd been there loads of times. It was always really hot when we were there. And we went in December. And we booked, you know, 4 days on a resort in Hoi An, you know, China Beach, beautiful area, beautiful beaches. And it was freezing cold. It was raining and stormy the whole time we were there. And I just made that assumption that, oh, Vietnam's hot all the time, it'll be fine. And I hadn't done the research. So it's really important to look at things like the weather and also things like the security levels in a country. I mean, we all know now that, you know, we can't guarantee that anywhere's safe. But really looking at what level of risk is in a place. I had a woman who wanted to do a retreat to Israel. And while that would be amazing, the risk to the participants is probably a lot higher than if it was a retreat to Queensland. So really thinking about the when and the location, and also looking at what's happening in the country at the time, like is there national holidays? Is it school holidays? And there's going to be loads of families and maybe groups of teenagers there, and maybe you want something a bit secluded. So really being very clear on the when and the where. So the next thing is really important is to look at who your ideal client is. So this is Shale. She is my ideal client. She's been on 2 retreats with me and is coming on her 3rd to Europe in August. Now, she came along initially wanting to explore the world, and quickly realized when she got to Bali that she was a really angry person. And she said, I don't want to end up angry and bitter like my grandmother was, and her grandmother had raised her. And so she did a lot of work on that first retreat, and then went and had some counselling when she got back. And to see her come on Vietnam, which was a very different sort of retreat because we were travelling to different locations and doing mini-type workshops and had really constructed conversations over dinner where I would ask a question and we would all talk about it. And I really saw a huge difference in her. So she had really blossomed. So she's my ideal client because she's in her 50s. She's single. She doesn't have to discuss anything with a partner. But then I say that I'm in a relationship and I just make decisions of what I'm going to do anyway. She wants to explore the world and wants to work on herself emotionally and spiritually. So she's the type of woman that I put out there as wanting on my retreats, and she's the type of woman I attract. We all can put out different things, and you'll find the people that need your retreat are the ones that are going to come to you. So another important point is thinking about your retreat, its name, theme, and promises. Why is it that you can create, what can you create that makes you stand out from the crowd? I always talk about the difference between custard and creme brulee. So custard is might be your packet mix, the powder that you make into custard, or some stuff in a carton that's been mass produced. And it's just kind of standard, and you don't really love it when you eat it, but it's okay. But it's that creme brulee of retreats that makes you stand out. It's the one that everybody wants to go to. And I think in today, when there are so many retreats to choose from, you Google it and you get hundreds, and there's sites where you can get on and look through hundreds of retreats that people are running. You need to really design a name, theme, and promises that really stand out for you, that make you stand out from the crowd. And this is where the usage of emotive words can come into play. The name of the retreat is the first thing potential clients see, particularly if they follow a link off a post on Facebook, whether it be a post on a page, an ad, or a boosted post. The first thing they're going to see is the retreat name. So like my Europe one is a journey of grandeur, and that's really about looking at the history of where we're going in Europe, connecting you to the past and seeing these amazing ancient structures that we don't have here in Australia. So I know two of the women coming, they were like, the name was what drew us in. Your theme needs to be relevant to your clients. What is it they want to learn, and what is it they want to feel? So what is it they want to get out of coming? And your promises, what is it that they'll walk away with? These need to be really clear and really solid. So when people are, we've all seen those sales pages where we scroll down and down and down and down and down and down and down, and then think, I don't even know what that was about. Especially if they're about retreats. I've seen some retreat pages where, it's all really airy-fairy the whole time, and nobody knows what they're walking away with. So to be really clear on your promises. So when people say, well, what will I get out of your retreat? You can give really solid examples, Say it was a business marketing retreat, You can say, well, you'll walk away with a really clear plan for the next 12 months of the marketing strategies in your business, and we'll have also broken it down into the first 3 months. So people can be really clear on what it is they'll go away with and what it is they'll get out of investing the money. Starting your itinerary. So I've seen a lot of itineraries that are all workshop based and there's no downtime. It's really important when you're teaching, as we all know, that there's time for people to absorb what they're learning. So really make sure it's balanced, and there's at least a little while each day where people can just go off by themselves. They can just stay in their room or sit in the you know, in the garden or by the pool or whatever, just so they can regroup and have some downtime and sit and read a book or chat or whatever. And also think about other activities to do other than what you're teaching. So you might have decided that you're taking a retreat to Bali and you're going to do some sightseeing while you're there. And so say it was a retreat about connecting with your spirituality. So you might do a visit to some of the temples. You might go to one of the water temples and have a blessing by a local priest. You might go to there's a female Hindu priest in Bali. You might go and see her. So those things that are connected to your activities, but also mixing it with some things that are really fun. Because if we're, you know, often we need, you know, laughter to help the learning absorb as well. So the budgeting, this is also a really big thing that people often get wrong because they don't often actually know the prices of things of where they're going, so they guess. So that's when I talk about including everything that you can think of. So in a standard budget, I would have the accommodation, the transport, any taxis that people need to get, or your food that you're including, your welcome packs, if you're including a speaker, or there's costs for workshops that you might do outside of the retreat. You know, you might include a massage or some sort of day spa voucher. And also your costs. It's really important to make sure that all your costs while you're there, plus your travel, is included in that budget. I've seen so many people plan a really beautiful retreat and then go, oh, I think I'll charge $3,000. But then they've advertised that people have booked and then they realise that that's not enough money, that that's barely going to cover anything, let alone make a profit. And, you know, all your hard work, all the hours you spend planning and talking to people and signing people up and advertising, you really do need to make at least some sort of profit that you feel comfortable with. So launching. The launching and the marketing is also a really big thing. It's about having that really good time frame for people to plan. You know, the biggest things I hear from particularly women are, I couldn't possibly spend that money on myself. I couldn't leave my family, my job, my pets, my garden. The best one was, I can't leave my children. And I said, oh, how old are they? And she said, oh, they're in their 20s. So I went, really? Can't leave your children? They're in their 20s? So that planning, so people can go, oh, you know what, $5,000 over 12 months works out to only be this much a month or this much a fortnight. Maybe I can afford that to do something for myself. So if a retreat is $5,000 plus, I launch it 12 months before the retreat. If I know about it, say 18 months before the retreat, I will often start mentioning it as well. I've got one woman that's coming to Europe and she's been paying it off since December 2014 because I happened to mention it and she went, oh my gosh, that would be awesome, I'm so in. And yeah, she's just been transferring money every fortnight. If your retreat's $3,000 to $5,000, you've got a little bit more leeway. So I would launch that about 6 to 12 months, but usually around the 8-month mark. And it's then that I can make it again more manageable for clients to work out their costings and how they're going to plan to come. 3,000 and under, you've got a little bit more leeway. So, sorry, my phone keeps buzzing in the drawer. There, it's on silent. So 3,000 and under makes it a little bit more manageable. So say you're running a retreat that's, say, $800. It's a 4-day retreat. You've planned it. Then I might launch that, say, 6 to 8 weeks out of the event. And that way people can go, you know what, $800 in 6 weeks, I can afford that. So that then goes in with the marketing. Have a sales funnel for your retreats. it's really important to, you can have something like a webinar, a free offer, a freebie. You might do like a weekend event that then leads into a longer event, but have something that you can channel people through, on your mailing list. Let them know what's happening. A lot of us these days are doing much more chatty emails to our mailing list, but it's really important to keep those sales pitches in there and just mention them, in a casual way or a more formal way, so people know what you're doing. And, somebody might be on your mailing list for 5 years and then go, oh, I think I might go on one of those retreats. Or, gee, that weekend that they've got planned looks really good. But having that funnel for people to come down, I think there's some theories that say out of 1,000 people on a mailing list, you might get 50 that might come to an event or might pick you up on a service. I don't know the figures. I think they vary for everything, but it is important to have a solid base of people that you can advertise to. And if you haven't got a mailing list, like I'm doing some new retreats next year, and I'll be doing webinars around what stops women travelling. And then I'll be offering them free one-on-one calls from that. And from the calls, I'll be, attempting to market the actual retreat to them. And I always say, if marketing's not your strong point, speak to someone who it is their strong point and it is their business, because they'll be able to lead you down the right way. And, you might potentially make 10 or 15,000 out of a retreat. So spending maybe $500 on someone for marketing is a really good investment. Okay, systems, risk management and legalities. So I always say make sure you have some sort of system in place that keeps everything flowing. Have your email set up, have an easy registration process where people can put it in, use MailChimp, put in their details. They are then registered for the retreat, and then there's a process of emails that comes to them, like how to pay, what they need to do in far as, maybe booking flights or travel insurance or visas or any of those things. Emails about what they need to bring. So it keeps everybody in the loop, and also makes the process much easier if you've got that set up. Have a risk management and incident plan report. So I always have a folder of all my forms and paperwork that I take, a copy of everybody's flight details, travel insurance, all those sorts of things. And I also have some incident reporting forms in there. So, and I'll use Bali as an example. So when we're in Bali, we would normally have 2 or 3 vehicles and drivers. Each driver would know, and each vehicle would know, that in the event of an accident, what they need to do. If they need to transport people to hospital, which hospital to go to. If there's some sort of freaky nature act happening, then what the plan is to keep our people as safe as possible. People also know about if there's a fire or anything at the accommodation, where they need to meet. All those little things that reduce the risk to the people. And always, always, always make sure you're covered legally. So having those legal documents that state that people know they're coming on a trip with you, all those public liability stuff, that they know there may be advice given on the retreat, but that's their own choice to take it. If they choose to leave the retreat program at any time and maybe go for a coffee or go shopping or whatever, then they do so at their own risk. All those things that cover you in the event of something going wrong. It really stood out to me. I had a friend a couple years ago, and a really good friend, come on a retreat, and she said to me, well, if I get food poisoning, I'll sue you. And I kind of went, really? You'll sue me if you get food poisoning? And she said, yeah. She said, but I'm not really suing you. I'm suing the insurance company. So then her and I had a discussion about, well, she would be choosing to eat the food and that sort of thing. And that's when I really went, I really need to tighten up the legal side of my business. So then, say that did happen, then it doesn't affect me and my reputation as much. Another thing that I really point out to people, because people often don't realise, is you need to make sure retreats are covered in your business insurance. So if you've got insurance for your business, you need to make sure that they'll cover you for taking groups away. Often, most business insurances might cover you for 1 or 2 retreats a year, but it's about talking to them and finding the best option. I got mine through an insurance broker, and because I'm sometimes doing 6 to 10 retreats a year, I needed something that was a lot more broader than 1 or 2 a year. So really talk to the people that know and can make sure you're covered adequately. So that's really all of my points. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the share and take any questions. Great. So, Nanette, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask.
I don't. I've been listening kind of in between putting the kids to bed, but you've given some really great info. And my bigger questions you just answered about like liability.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And that was the stuff that I was having a hard time finding online. So
yeah. And I know of some people who do run retreats in the States, so I'll see if I can find out what insurances they use for you. And another thing is, like I know in the States too, that when booking accommodation, like you need to have special contracts.
Yes. I've been looking into it. I'm hoping to host a creativity retreat, which you talked about towards the beginning, and that's really, really important to me. It's something that I re-entered creativity or re-engaged with it right after having my firstborn a couple years ago. And there's so many people all the time that say, oh, they're not creative, but I think a lot of people think creativity just means like drawing or painting.
That's what I thought. I thought creativity was art.
Yeah, but creative is like creative problem solving. One second, honey. Creative problem solving and things like that. I'm sorry.
Right. I understand.
But I'm going to listen to the audio again. Okay. Thank you.
That's all right. Ange, did you have any questions?
My questions were answered as well. Mine were also around the risk management and also the liability as well. So I think the information you provide has been really rich in that sense. So it's answered some of the questions. So I think I've got a bit more, actually a lot of stuff I need to kind of unpack and go back to my insurance company with and stuff. So that's fabulous, actually.
Yeah. And Nanette, I know you're on mute, but that's okay. So I've got, if you're interested, Ange has already signed up for it, which is a bit exciting. I've got a 28-day retreat planning course coming up. So it's all the details you can think of. And I've got another lady from the States signed up, and I'm going to get a special document prepared for you guys about that accommodation booking and that sort of thing, because I didn't realise it was such a big thing in the States, and I've got a contact who negotiates those contracts, so she's going to do up a special package for me to include in the training. So if you like, I'll just send you a link in our Facebook message about that training if you wanted to have a look at it. But I'm more doing these webinars because I feel really sad when I see people who do all this work and then their retreats just don't work for whatever reason. They just, they don't understand the marketing side. They, and I've worked with professionals that really have like mailing lists of 30,000 people, and even they need a lot of work to recruit people for their retreats. You know, if you're someone like Oprah or Elizabeth Gilbert or Marie Forleo, yeah, you're going to have people falling over themselves to get there. But the average entrepreneur or professional or business person or you know, person who just wants to run something small, you know, that work is so much harder. And this one woman I'm thinking of wanted to run a retreat and basically said, I've got 10,000 on my mailing list and they're all really wealthy and it won't be an issue. Not one person signed up because she did not market it well. She mentioned it once in one email and that was all she mentioned it. And I kept saying to her, you need to mention it more. You need every week. You need to add something in your emails about it. Nah, she knew better and her retreat didn't work. So it's really about, yeah, staying in the forefront of people's minds. And I don't want people's retreats to fail, you know. So, yeah, it's exciting. So I'll stop the recording in a sec, but thank you, both of you, for joining me. And everybody that's listening, I hope you've got something out of this, and I will talk to you all soon. I will add the link to the 28-day course, which is $297, and it's starting next Monday, the 13th, and it's 10 modules over 28 days plus 3 live calls, and you'll get 2 Skype calls each, so it's really, really, really good value. And so feel free to PM me. We've only got about 5 spaces left on that, if that now. So I will hear from you all soon. And, yeah, I'll talk to you later.